I'm going to be trying out for the second time cheap Amazon brushes. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It's good to have you back. I'm Ashley Sue, in case you are not familiar with me. This is the exact same brush set that I tried from Amazon last autumn. And at the end of it, I decided don't spend your $11 on them because while they're But two things. Number one, makeup newbie. Last autumn, I really was just learning about makeup. Like I literally was just owning my first anything. And number two, even if they work as good as like e.l.f., they're cheaper than e.l.f. brushes. So why wouldn't you want to buy them if they're at least as good as e.l.f. or Wet n Wild or one of the other drugstore brands? It's hard to think that $10 brush set isn't worth it, but we're gonna find out. So last time it just came in a clear bag. I decided to order the exact same set. They are each individually wrapped inside of this blue casing. So this is what you can expect to receive when you order them. Of course, they're Amazon Prime, so if you have a Prime account, you'll get them in probably about 3 days. And inside has the same little sheet of paper that I got last autumn that tells you about BS Small. I will stick to the fact that that is some poor planning of company name, BS Small. So let's get going without further ado. Last year, oh my God, they stunk to high heavens. They smelled like gasoline or paint fumes or paint remover. It was terrible. These don't. These don't at all smell. All right. Mercury in retrograde. All right, so I went ahead and popped on my under eye concealer and color corrector because we are here for the brushes, not for the sponge or anything else. We're gonna try it with a brush because I haven't actually applied it with a brush. This is the Ordinary. Am I gonna try the serum or coverage? Yeah, I'm gonna try serum. So we're gonna go with a face flat brush. I've never made a habit out of applying my foundation with a brush. I think it's weird. Whoa. Ugh. It's a dense brush and it's really soft. I don't think it's actually dense enough, and this is actually creating a little bit of a problem. You know, when you see it, areas of it aren't moving and then it just kind of, you see it just kind of doing this jiggle thing. Like, do you see that? Do you see that? And it makes it not actually apply very evenly. It kind of bunches. And you can actually almost see the dithering on the brush itself. Also, it is shedding. Just gonna keep applying that. This applied awful. Like, this is so bad. All right, I'm gonna go in with my blending sponge and see if I can correct some of this. The blending liquid foundation brush for the flat face brush was just not good. It did not do a good job. It kind of bunched the foundation around. I went back in with a beauty blender. It made a lot of difference. It actually is laying more evenly now, so we're gonna move on. Okay, this one is so dense. This one, the face round brush, which they say is great for powders and mineral foundations, it actually feels a bit denser on the skin. It's still very soft, but it feels denser than the flat brush did. I kind of feel like it's pounding my face more than anything. Also, it is shedding like a wicked mofo. Wow. This is the fluffiest, fattest brush that comes in this set. And to be honest, that's a disappointment because I like something fluffy to brush on things like bronzer. So I guess we're gonna go ahead and contour with the one that it says is for contouring, the flat angled brush. All right, I'm gonna take this into the Kat Von D Subliminal Contour Powder. This is so wide. I'm going to have, it's like contour meant for a giant person. I'm not excited about this at all. Do you see how wide of a band that is? That's crazy. That's that's so bad. Guys, I contour almost every day. I don't have issues with the contour brushes that I use. They aren't 1.5 inches wide. This is completely at least 1.25 inches wide. This actually says this is good for contours of the nose and contouring the nose. So we're gonna try to do it since they claim. Okay, about the brush, again, this is really soft. It's not blending anything out very well. It applied it very patchy, and after taking it into a color switch to get some of the product off, and now trying to use it as a blending. When I get done with this, I'm actually gonna tell you guys which brushes I would recommend over these in case you choose not to get the $10 set from Amazon and you would rather just like spend a few more dollars on a handful of specified really good brushes that definitely do the job. This ended up getting contour all the way down, almost to my mouth line, and it is just really patchy looking, and there's nothing I can do about that now. So let's move on to the blush brush. This is the face angled rounded brush. They claim that this is good for bronzer, which I would heavily dispute with, but they do say this is also good with blush, so that's what we're gonna give it a shot for. I tend to use very fluffy brushes for blush. This is much more compacted, so I expect to give a much less diffused look. With any brush really, but if you do get these, make sure that after you dip it into the color that you do, tap it off a smidgen because it will really plop that color onto your skin. I am starting to look like I belong in a high school play, a production of Annie. This also really put the color on, but it is not dispersing it in an even manner whatsoever. It is definitely very patchy looking on my skin. It's very difficult to blend. It is not the product. I use this. This is Tarte. I use it every day. I really like it. And I'm having problems with makeup that I never have problems with. Nothing is blending out. It's just kind of grabbed onto my skin and holding there. There's one more big brush that I'm not going to use today. This is very soft, and this probably would do a fine job for baking. If you're just putting some heavy powder on, if you're going in with your RCMA or your Coty or whatever you're doing, and you want to plop that on here under your eyes, this is probably phenomenal for it. Flick it away a little bit. Sounds good, looks good. Now that I've done my face for better or worse, we're going to go into the eye section, which is my favorite section to do. I'm gonna go in with the biggest, fluffiest one they have, which I do believe this is supposed to be their blending brush, though in the picture it is much more narrow and much more compacted. In reality, it's already a bit frayed out and splayed out and wide, which, I mean, I guess if we're going into blending, not really a big deal. I'm gonna do an all over base color because that's what I always do. I really thought that getting these brushes a second time was going to be like wow worthy. So far, I am so disappointed. Now that I understand so much more about putting on makeup, and I am far from a makeup artist or an expert, just an enthusiast. Wow. I've been using this palette for weeks. I've not had any issues with it. My eyes are primed, and it's just patchy. It's just going on really badly. This is among the worst blending brushes I've ever used in my life. I would definitely stick to Wet n Wild or e.l.f. over this without any doubts, but my favorite to use instead of this is an Eco Tools brush that far beat this thing. So far guys, we have no hits. Now we're gonna take their angled eyeshadow brush and we're going to use it for crease color. Honestly, I don't think it has quite enough, it doesn't have enough flick to it. It likes to stay in the shape that it is, which will make it good for packing on a color, but it may not make it very good for blending and for smoothly applying makeup, but we're gonna find out. It's blending well, but not precisely at all. It kind of goes all over the place and it's hard for it not to. I would say this one was okay except for the fact that again, Wet n Wild, e.l.f., Eco Tools all have options that I think are actually better. Because in the end, this isn't a good look, even just for the crease so far. We're gonna go in now with what they call the concealer brush. I often use concealer brushes to pack on color. They like to stay stiff. They don't really fluff out, which makes it good for packing on a good color on a lid. And this one was just okay at best. So I did pack the color on, but that's it. So what do I think about these brushes from BS Small? They are currently $9.99 on Amazon. I have seen them fluctuate a little bit up and a little bit down. So they're cheap, they're crazy cheap. And you know, I know there's a bunch of you who are looking up reviews who cannot help yourself and you're gonna buy them no matter what I say. But you know, they're shedding as much as my cat does. Seriously, there's a lot of shedding happening, a lot. They smell fine, which is a step up from the last time that I reviewed them, but in the end, I still think they are a waste of your money. Now, I get it, $10 is so cheap and you get all of these, but out of all of these brushes, these I flat out do not like. I would never use these again. I am very unhappy to have them in my possession currently because they suck. And I know, it's like, how can a brush suck that much? That it's not even worth like the 70 cents that it is. It's not worth it, don't get it. They have an eyebrow brush here, a dual-ended one, which I'm not a fan of dual-ended brushes, but they are a little more common, especially with eyebrow brushes. I don't use pomade, so I wasn't able to try one end of it. The spoolie end I was able to use, but since I used the Anastasia Beverly Hills Brow Wiz, which comes with its own built-in spoolie, I didn't need this one either. However, comparing the two spoolies end to end, the one from BS Small is much bigger and clunkier, and I used it to do my eyebrows, but in the end, it definitely created less precision. A smaller, tighter spoolie is definitely a big step up from this. Again, this is cheap, I know, and it's lovely for being super cheap, but there are, I will say, 3 that I kind of like and would kind of recommend, but only kind of. 2 of them are blending brushes. One is your typical round blending brush. It is not nearly dumb enough. It is not nearly fluffy enough. It is frankly a little too small. If you have teeny tiny eyes, if you are a very petite person, this might be the right thing for you. This one I kind of like. I use it as a crease brush. It is not a good crease brush, but it's an angled eyeshadow blending brush, and there are just better ones on the market for barely more money. So I mean, if you can spend an extra $10, I've got your other set coming. Then there's a detail brush here, and I actually like this detail brush. The other ones I threw in the don't care for them pile. This one is an angled eyeliner detail brush, and I actually use it just to do with dry powder, just dry shadow. I just barely dampened the tip of this and put it in and made just a little bit of a brown line. It definitely helped deepen and dramatic my eyelash line just a little bit, and I actually use this enough to say that this definitely works. This pencil brush is a little bit longer and taller than I'm used to pencil brushes being, but it comes to a nice point. It has a good stiffness to it, and therefore does a good job smoking out and applying color to your lower lash line. And then lastly, this big fella here, which, you know, I didn't have a lot of use for this today, but I can see where this would be good in my collection, especially to take a little powder and apply it right here in the corners. That can be kind of a hard area to get powder in to help set whatever fluid foundation or color corrector that you have right there. And I really like, I mean, this alone kind of feels like a massage. It really does. Now that I think about it, this alone might be worth $10. Yeah, so with that said, $10 for 4 pretty good brushes. Now that's, you know, now that I'm saying it's not worth it, this alone makes it seem like this is worth it. Brushes are not cheap. Like, good brushes really aren't cheap. Really isn't a bad deal. It's just kind of disheartening when you have brushes that you tried that you know you are going to throw away, that they are just wasted. They're just not good. And that's a bummer because this is my second time going through this. And I can definitively say, if I could go back in time, I would not buy this set again. Now, I will show you a few options that combined will still cost more than the $10 that these cost, but you will be happier with what you spend. Okay, so that's a much longer video and review than I meant for it to be. Please stay tuned as next week I will review a second set of brushes from BS Mall. The main reason I did the other ones is because those are the ones that I tried to review the first time, and I thought I would give them a fair shake now that I understand more about applying makeup and how to use makeup with brushes. If that's something you're interested in and you have not subscribed yet, please click subscribe, and that way you can see those videos when they post. I have other reviews coming up also, and I have some like pretty heavy life stuff coming up. So if you are part of this tribe, if you are part of a group of women who are no longer young and are trying to figure out how to handle being middle-aged, then join me. Click subscribe, leave a comment, let me know what age you were when you first fell in love with makeup. Let me know when you were when you first started using makeup. Because by the way, those are 2 different times in life for many of us. And I would just love to hang out with you and get to know you better. So, I hope to hear from you soon. I hope to see you soon. God bless you. Just know that God loves you, that I love you, and that we all sparkle. You too.